I want you to imagine something for a second. Just picture it. This is England, one of the toughest leagues in the world, packed stadiums, fans screaming, defenders running you into the ground every time you touch the ball. And then out of nowhere, there's this guy. And he doesn't just play football, he dances with it. Like he's got a rhythm nobody else has. Like he's speaking a language that only he understands. He's bending reality on the pitch, pulling off moves that make you question physics. And the crazy thing is, you watch him and you're like, how is this even possible in the Premier League? Because this league isn't built for flair. It's built for grit, discipline, toughness. And yet somehow he's rewriting the rules every time he steps on the grass. And the thing is, most people don't even remember him the way they should. His story gets lost, overshadowed by names that are easier to remember. But the truth is, this guy changed the way we think about creativity in football. He made us rethink what's possible when pure talent meets audacity. And today, we're going to dive deep into the story of the most Brazilian player ever in England. The highs, the lows, the moments that took your breath away, the mistakes, the clashes, and why. Even though the world kind of forgot him, his legacy still whispers to anyone who truly loves the game and trusts by the end of this. You're going to see him in a way you never did before. You're going to feel every twist, every turn, every jaw-dropping moment. And it's going to stay with you because this isn't just a story about football. It's a story about genius, passion, and what it means to be unforgettable, even when the world tries to forget you. You know what blows my mind every time I think about it? There was this guy in England, and I don't know if people really get what he was doing on the pitch because, like, English football is all about grit, power, running, discipline, structure. But this dude came in and it was like someone had opened a window to Brazil right there on a Premier League pitch. The way he moved with the ball, it wasn't just dribbling, it was like dancing. Like he was having a conversation with the ball, like the ball was an extension of his body and he was telling stories every time he touched. And I'm talking about things you don't see every day, man, like flicks, spins, feints, nutmegs that made defenders look like they were standing still, completely frozen, like they didn't even know it hit. And fans, oh man, the fans went nuts because you could feel the excitement in the stadium shift the moment he got the ball. It was almost like electricity in the air. But here's the thing, it wasn't just flashy for flashiness' sake. It was intelligent, it was creativity on another level. He'd see spaces nobody else saw, like he had the sixth sense and he'd exploit it with the kind of audacity that just shouldn't work in a league that's so physical and structured. And every time he did something insane, like a ridiculous turn or an impossible pass, you could see both awe and frustration on the faces of his teammates and opponents because it was so unorthodox, so different from what they were used to. And it's funny because you'd think a player like that would be celebrated constantly, right? But it's almost like the system fights against him. English football demands consistency, discipline, tactical awareness, and sure, he had those things to some extent. But his natural flair, his improvisation, the pure samba in his style sometimes clashed with the rigid expectations of managers and fans who just wanted results over art. Yet whenever he was on, it felt like watching a highlight reel unfold in real time. Every match had moments that you'd never forget. Moments that made you want to get up and cheer just for the sheer beauty of the game. And that's something rare, man, something that transcends stats or trophies or headlines, because it's not just football, it's like witnessing genius in motion. This mix of instinct, creativity, and audacity that makes you rethink what's even possible in a game that's been played millions of times before. Man, it's crazy when you think about talent and potential because some players come into the league and you can just tell they were born to do, like the football gods literally handed them a gift. And then for whatever reason, it just doesn't fully happen. And it's heartbreaking to watch. And that's exactly what happened with this guy. You know, he had everything: skill, vision, creativity, flair, style that could make people stop and stare and just think, okay, this is something else entirely. And yet he never really became the player everyone expected. Like you could see glimpses, you could see him lighting up a match here and there, scoring impossible goals, pulling off insane dribbles, making passes that nobody else in the league could even conceive. But then something would happen and he'd disappear, and it wasn't like he wasn't trying, it wasn't like he lacked heart. It was injuries, it was inconsistent coaching, it was maybe not having the right system around him, maybe even the weight of expectation. Because when people start calling you the most Brazilian guy in England, man, that's a lot to live up to. And every time he went down with a knock or had a bad run it felt like the narrative around him would shift immediately, like, oh, maybe he's not that good, when in reality it was just this perfect storm of circumstances that didn't allow him to flourish fully. And the thing is, you could see it in his eyes, in his movement. He knew he was capable of greatness. He knew he could change a game on his own. But the consistency just wasn't there, not because he wasn't talented, but because life and football are rarely fair, and the system doesn't always nurture genius, especially a kind that's unpredictable and raw. And then you watch him pull off one of those moments, one touch, one run, one goal, and it's like, oh yeah, that's exactly what we were talking about. But then it fades and people move on. The hype dies down, and it's almost tragic because you keep thinking, man, if everything had clicked, if he had stayed fit, if the manager had trusted him fully, if the team had built around him, what could he have been? And it's that what if, that lingering sense of lost opportunity that makes his story stick with you, because you realize that football isn't just about raw talent or flashiness. It's about timing, luck, the environment, and this guy, he had the tools to be a legend, but somehow, somewhere, the pieces never quite lined up to let him show the world the full extent of what he could do. You ever notice how some players just don't fit the system? And it's not because they aren't good, it's because the culture of the league, the culture of the team, it's like this invisible force that pushes against them. And this guy, he was perfect to watch, right? But he came into England, which is all about structure, discipline, physicality. Like every manager wants you running, marking, holding shape. And here he is with this free-flowing improvisational samba-like style, just thinking 2 steps ahead of everyone else. And it's beautiful to watch. But it's also like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, because the league doesn't reward that creativity, it punishes it sometimes. Like defenders and midfielders will just smash into you if you hesitate for a second. And managers are constantly barking, keep it simple, do your job, follow the plan. And he's trying to invent something on the pitch in real time, making moves that feel natural to him, but alien to the system. And you can see it, man. It's like watching someone in a classroom who's way smarter than the test, like they're thinking in 3 dimensions while everyone else is stuck on one. And it frustrates people. Teammates get annoyed because they don't know what he's doing. Managers get frustrated because it's hard to control, but at the same time, when it works, it's magic. It's moments that nobody else can create. And that tension, that push and pull between instinct and expectation, it's insane because it shapes his career, it limits him, it forces him into roles that don't play to his strengths, and he adapts but he loses a little bit of that spark every time, because the culture is not just tactics, it's mentality, it's what's considered acceptable, what's celebrated. And this guy, he's celebrating something else entirely. He's celebrating creativity, unpredictability, joy. And it clashes so hard with a league that's obsessed with efficiency, with results, with numbers, with keeping things neat. And it's not his fault. It's not the league's fault. It's just this collision of worlds, and you see it on the pitch in his body language, in moments of brilliance that come sandwiched between periods of confusion or criticism. And it makes you realize that football is not just physical or technical, it's psychological, it's cultural, it's about fitting in while trying to stand out. And he was standing out so much that the system couldn't fully embrace him. And that man, that's why we remember him, not just for the goals or the dribbles, but for this feeling that he was always slightly apart, always playing his own game inside someone else's rule. And it's beautiful and tragic at the same time. Man, let me tell you, there's something about certain players where it doesn't matter how long their career lasts or how many games they play. There are these moments, these flashes of brilliance that just stick with you forever. And this guy had them in spades. Like every time he touched the ball, you never knew what was going to happen next. It was pure chaos in the most beautiful way, like watching someone bend reality with their feet. And I remember watching matches where he would pick up the ball on the wing. Defenders would be all over him, but he'd just slip through them, like he was moving in slow motion and they were moving in fast motion. One moment he's on the touchline, the next moment he's cutting through the center, leaving 3 guys in his way. And then he'd finish it with this audacious shot, curling it into the top corner. And the stadium would just explode, like the noise alone could give you chills. And the thing is, these weren't just goals, man. These were statements, like he was saying, I exist on my own, and I can do whatever I want with this game. And it's moments like that that make people fall in love with football, because it's raw, it's unpredictable, it's pure joy. And sometimes it was a pass, not even a goal. He'd thread the ball through 2 or 3 defenders to a teammate who had no right to receive it. And the commentator would just stumble over words because it was so audacious, so unexpected. And it happened time and time again, flashes of genius that were like a light in a dark room, moments where you could see his talent wasn't just skill, it was art, it was improvisation, it was intuition. It was him saying, I don't care about your tactics, your formations, I'm going to make the impossible possible. And fans loved it. They would jump to their feet, screaming, cheering, knowing they were witnessing something special. And you could tell that in those moments he was fully alive, like nothing else mattered.
And it didn't happen every week. Sometimes it would be months between these magical displays, which made them even more precious, like rare gems hidden in a sea of routine matches. And it's funny because these are the moments that define a player in the memories of fans, not necessarily trophies or stats. It's that one goal, that one assist, that one mesmerizing dribble that you replay in your head for years.
And even when his career didn't go exactly as planned, those moments made it unforgettable. They made people stop, talk, debate, and remember. And that's the power of talent, man. The power of someone who can bend the rules of the game for a few seconds and leave everyone in awe. And those moments, those unforgettable flashes, are why we still talk about him, why we still watch highlights, why his story lingers in the minds of football lovers everywhere. Man, it's wild when you think about how some players leave a mark that's undeniable, but for some reason history just kind of forgets them. This guy is a perfect example. Like, he had everything to become a legend. You could see it in every touch, every run, every pass. It was this whirlwind of creativity and talent that could turn a match on its head in seconds. But for some reason, when people look back at the big name, the ones that everyone remembers, his name doesn't always pop up. And it's not because he wasn't incredible. It's not because he didn't have moments of sheer genius. It's because of timing, circumstances, maybe injuries, maybe the culture clash with English football, maybe just bad luck. And it's frustrating because when you watch him play, you're reminded of what football can be at its most beautiful and unpredictable. And that's what makes his story bittersweet. It's this combination of brilliance and being underrated, underappreciated. Like, the world was ready for him, but the world just didn't catch up. And it's crazy because the few who saw him play, they remember, they talk about it. They bring up these matches where he did things that were impossible, things that would make you question physics, bending the game in ways nobody else could. But it doesn't make the highlight reels as much. It doesn't make the history books as much. And that's part of the tragedy and part of the charm, because it's like discovering a hidden gem that only a few people truly appreciate. And it makes you think about the nature of talent and recognition, because you can have moments that are transcendent. You can change the way people see the game. You can influence the culture, inspire other players. And still, if it doesn't fit neatly into the narrative, if it isn't consistent enough week in and week out, it can get lost. And he's a reminder of that. A living example of how football isn't always fair, how genius can be overlooked, and yet the fact that we're talking about him now, even years later, shows that true talent leaves a footprint, even if it's faint, and it lives in the memories of those who witnessed it, in the awe, the debates, the stories told among fans. And there's a certain poetic sadness in that, because it means greatness isn't always about trophies or records. It's about impact, about moments that make people stop and say, wait, did you just see that? And that's what he did, man, over and over again, even if the world has mostly moved on. And maybe that's even more beautiful in a way, that his legend exists in whispers, in highlight reel, in the minds of fans, who know that sometimes the most Brazilian player in England wasn't remembered for what he won, but for what he made us feel. Man, after talking about all of this, all the flair, the moments, the unrealized potential, the cultural clashes, the flashes of genius, and the way the world kind of forgot him, it really makes you stop and think about how fragile greatness is, and how much timing, environment, and just plain luck play into whether a player becomes a household name or fades into the background. The crazy part is that none of that takes away from what he gave us, what he showed us, because even if the history books don't fully recognize it, even if some people have forgotten, those of us who saw it, those who felt it, we carry it with us. And that's the beauty of it. Greatness isn't always about recognition. It's about the moments, the awe, the inspiration, the way it makes you look at the game differently. And he did that, man, over and over again. He reminded us that football is art. It's joy. It's creative. It's something magical that transcends stats or trophies. And that's a lesson we can all take into our own lives, whether it's sports, work, or anything we do, to chase that spark, to embrace what makes us unique, to play our own game, even if the world doesn't fully get it. And so I just want to end by saying, wherever you are in your own journey, keep that fire alive, honor your moments, and never forget that impact isn't always measured in headlines. It's measured in the awe you create, the inspiration you leave behind, and the lives you touch along the way. So good luck out there. Chase your brilliance, make your own magic. And thank you for letting me share this story with you, because talking about legends, even the forgotten ones, reminds us all why we fell in love with the game in the first place.